volatility is often a misunderstood phenomenon. But if people are starting to look increasingly at Bitcoin as a safe haven asset, for it to qualify in their minds as a safe haven asset, it needs to not be wildly volatile.
Hello, you're watching Proactive. I'm joined by Bradley Duke. He's European head of Bitwise Asset Management. Bradley, great to speak with you again. And we have Bitcoin again flirting with those all-time highs.
That's right, Stephen. Yeah. So we've seen the last 24 hours, Bitcoin, the price at around sort of over $110,000 to this. Today it's trading around 109,000. But it seems to be pushing. It seems to be wanting to go to make new all-time highs. And as we've discussed before, on this show, that we've one of the main drivers behind the price of Bitcoin at the moment pushing up is the structural imbalance that has been put in place by the fact that Bitcoin famously has a fixed supply, a maximum supply of 21 million Bitcoin. And demand at the moment is reaching levels that we haven't seen before, fueled mostly by not only the ETFs and the ETPs in Europe that have become a really big buyer of Bitcoin to back the securities that are issued, but also because of the corporate treasury companies, this phenomenon that's growing and seems to be accelerating. We've got this year the Bitcoin treasury companies alone, the listed ones, have bought up more than 3 times the new supply of Bitcoin, and the number of companies has doubled since the beginning of the year to now in the first 6 months. The number of listed companies that are holding treasury Bitcoin as a treasury on their balance sheet has doubled. So it seems to be accelerating. People have seen this as an opportunity by even some companies that are not doing particularly well to actually branch out into they're holding a lot of cash on their balance sheet, buy Bitcoin instead. It's been a great way to boost their share price, and some have taken on as a full-time business, just raising debt, raising equity to buy more Bitcoin and just to accelerate this flywheel that we're seeing in the space at the moment.
Bradley, there was an all-time high close to 112,000. That was in late May. But for the past 2 months, we've had Bitcoin holding above 100,000. So we haven't seen those massive swings. Is volatility trending downwards for Bitcoin?
Yeah, I mean that's a astute observation. The Bitcoin historically has always been known when you say Bitcoin to people, one of the first things they'll be thinking about and saying back to you is volatility. Okay, and of course, volatility is often a misunderstood phenomenon. But if people are starting to look increasingly at Bitcoin as a safe haven asset, for it to qualify in their minds as a safe haven asset, it needs to not be wildly volatile. And so what we do, our research department looks at the volatility of Bitcoin, has looked at it over time, since inception actually, and compare that to the volatility of the S&P 500. So as a good measure of what's acceptable volatility, as for investment grades, a level that's acceptable to investors, and especially in order to sort of qualify, for the safe haven status. And we've seen that the volatility has come down steadily over the last 15 plus years, that since the inception of Bitcoin, and measured against the S&P volatility, so a diversified basket of equities, it has actually just come down steadily, and at the moment in the last 3 months it's at the same level as the S&P. So for a lot of people, they can sort of put a line through that concern, that what we've seen is with the greater adoption of Bitcoin the vol has come down, and that's often the case with assets. We've seen that with some large, some tech companies. Initially, there's a lot of volatility in their stock price, and over time, and as the market cap of those stocks actually grows, the vol comes in considerably on the share price.
In the meantime, I see that you've launched a new ETP, so it's the Bitwise Near Staking ETP, and that's been launched on Deutsche Börse. Can you tell us more about that?
Yeah, sure. So we listed that yesterday. I'm very, very pleased and proud the launch went well. We're actually going to be doing a closing bell ceremony next week in Frankfurt at the Frankfurt Stock Exchange. Yeah, so it's listed on Xetra on Deutsche Börse, the main board there, and also the most liquid ETP ETF board in Europe. So we're pleased about that. So what it is it's a product that gives investors exposure to the Near token. And for people who don't know that token, and look, I always advise people who are investing that, cryptocurrency, you have Bitcoin, which is standalone. And then you've got a lot of different cryptocurrencies, which have really, a lot of them are focusing on a particular niche and trying to add value in a certain specialist area. And with Near, the specialist area is AI. So what they've done is they've optimized their blockchain with a view of the future of how AI agents are going to be interacting, and they've really optimized that blockchain for AI, but also in a very sort of human-centric approach. How best this interaction of the blockchain can help humans using AI to really optimize their objectives, whether it be financial or otherwise. So super interesting. Advise people to have a read up about Near. Fascinating blockchain. Very, very smart bunch of people over there that we've been dealing with in preparing for this launch. Yeah, and that's so super proud. It's also a staking ETP, as you mentioned, which means that there is an additional revenue, well, aside from price performance, where the products are actually tracking on a Delta One, basis, the price movements in the price movements in the token itself. You're also getting, there's an additional staking revenue, so it's around 5% at the moment. The staking revenue, so as part of the proof of stake mechanism, the holders of the token actually can earn this 5% per annum by staking, by committing the token towards the security of the network, and that's a sort of a payment for providing that service, which in the case of the ETP gets compounded and rolled back into the NAV of the of the product itself.
Good luck with that, and congratulations. Enjoy that bell ringing next week, Bradley.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Stephen.
Bradley Duke, the head of Europe at Bitwise Asset Management.